What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's TV review of the Apple TV Plus original series, Smoke Season 1. This will follow Episode 5, which is called Size Matters, and is directed by McKay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the halfway point of this season of Smoke. I think that I am a huge fan of this show. I think it is campy. I think it is over the top and silly at some points, but I think it hits the right tone for me personally, that I find this a very just fun, riveting show in a lot of respects. It's goofy. It's very much an FX show in a lot of respects, but it's a show that really harkens back on those kind of cool, dramatic, on stuff like Rescue Me. That's what the show feels like. It feels a lot like Rescue Me in a lot of respects, where you have a bunch of characters that are either despicable or fun or entertaining. But I don't know. I really like this episode. I just really like this show. But this episode really deals with Dave going on. He basically goes to a firefighters conference. He's going to do his regular shtick, but he's also, once again, we know he's an arsonist. We know what he's capable of. He's very much an individual that uses his bravado and confidence and scores women. He's cheating on his wife, of course. He meets a character named Reba, which is, it'll be a spoiler when we talk about it in a second. But Reba, becomes kind of infatuated with him, even though she's married and has a husband, and he has a wife, and there's some love lorn in there that you could tell straightforward. For the most part, is starting to his character on, of course, Michelle's side, and what we learn eventually with Ezra is starting to unravel, is starting to show its signs of what Dave is really at fault for, what he is as a flawed character and a very dangerous character. And it's really kind of an interesting thing to watch. I think Taron Egerton does a fantastic job in this episode, because he has to play off the simple fact that he gets called out by a woman in the thing he does, like the firefighting demonstration that he does. She has a fire extinguisher. When he sets out the fires, is uncontrollable, as chaotic and stuff like that, and she basically puts him in his place. She basically calls him out for kind of the fake nonsensical human being that he is, and it really is a character trait of what his wife currently says about him, about how he's not there, as we learn when Michelle's listening to his kind of book on tape of what he's working on. He is a man very conflicted, very small, very dangerous in a lot of aspects, and I like the simple fact that this woman in this conference puts him in his place, and I think that's really fascinating, because when he goes and has sex with the Reba character, he can't get it up. He basically flaccid the whole time as she's trying to have sex with him. And basically we learn that he needs to be in control. He is domineering, as we see in the one episode where he pours wax on the one girl. He's an individual that when he gets put in his place and gets put down, he can't handle it, and that's why he goes off and sets fires as an arsonist. And that shows that he is a little person in a what he thinks is a domineering position. And then on top of everything, we learn that Reba is his ex-wife. So not only is he cheating on his wife, but he's cheating on him with his ex-wife, who's role-playing with, of course, Dave's character. And when she puts him in his place and she knocks him down a peg or two, she kind of calls him out for what he is. It is really fascinating, because now that we know that it's his wife or his ex-wife, we know that she basically thinks he's a piece of trash, but she somehow is kind of endeared by him and stuff like that. Like I said, Taron Egerton, however you want to say his last name, he is fantastic as Dave. I like how strange and weird he is. I like how when the Rafe Spall character comes in, and how there's kind of a menace to the two characters, between the two characters, and how they kind of not like each other. I just like all that. I like, the fact of what, like I said, when Michelle's listening to the tape, how just kind of domineering he comes off as, like I said, and just kind of forceful in his nature, and how despicable he comes off as. And it's really interesting, and it plays into something really horrifying later on. But yeah, that's basically Dave's storyline and David's arc in the kind of this mix until the very end, which we'll get into. But I want to talk about Frankie a little bit for a quick session. Frankie has found out that he didn't get the job, which really puts him in a state. Brenda shows up, and she's really kind of scared. I don't know if she's scared or really kind of taken aback by Frankie, who just stares at the friar, kind of in a state. Brenda probably feels very scared by him just because of the nature of who he is and how he acts. We learn later on that Frankie just basically is really angry at his boss. His boss is like, we can't have you looking like a guy with a bunch of paper towel spots on his head because he shaved his head and stuff like that. And basically Frankie takes a bunch of bottles and goes to burn another house. Basically, one of the bottles breaks and he has to buy another milk jug, which is very telling because I'm sure they'll be able to find some evidence on that. And he goes and he basically sets a couple's house on fire and murders the couple, but the kids have been away. And that it's just really sad when you think about it, because the nature of what an arsonist is capable of, how much we can't really, like, if they were to wanting to set off a building or a house on fire, the fire spreads so quickly because of oxygen, as the woman says in the conference, oxygen O2, carbon dioxide and stuff like that, dioxide, how it mixes together and spreads really quickly. And you add in like wood and you add in all the air in the in the area. It really is something that spreads pretty fast. And he's using like oils from grease oil, and he's of course using other stuff to burn the house. And we watch the couple die and lose their kids are now now parentless. And Frankie's an individual that he is so lost in his own world. He is so dangerous in his own world. He is an individual that doesn't have any purpose in his life. So what does he do? To make himself feel better, he goes and kills people by setting fires and causing mass destruction. And as we see when Dave is called by his fire captain, or his arsonist captain, the great Kinnear character, and he knows that it's a personal vendetta for Frankie's character, there's like a smirk on Dave's face, and then he goes and we see the fire as he's driving by and stuff like that. There is a level of like, when a character doesn't have the ability to be domineering and be in the front, or when they feel lonely, they're going to do stuff that's really like in a negative and something destructive, and it really shows. But yeah, it's really heartbreaking to watch these things happen, because it's an everyday occurrence. Unfortunately, fires happen, people die in fires, arsonists create this types of thing, and we live in a world of demonic evil when it comes to that kind of thing. And I think that's what Dennis Lehane and his writing staff are trying to portray, is that there are people out there that may seem normal. There are people out there that may seem lonely. They may or may not be doing something destructive, and you just never know who you're going to be. But the more and more we learn of Frankie, the more and more we learn that he is just a lost soul who is doing stuff that's very terrible and trying to blame the whole world for his misery. And it is what it is. And I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how long his character lasts. But yeah, it's a pretty disturbing situation, but it's really potent. Like I said, the actor who plays Frankie does a really nice job. I think he's really fantastic in the episode. So that's kind of his storyline through the episode. His storyline is kind of just a plot point for the story. It doesn't really add much to the story outside of moving the story forward. So I guess there's that, to be fairly honest. And then, of course, we have great Kinnear and Rafe Spall, like, sparring back and forth with one another. I love the arguments as they have, and the kind of the childish nature they have with one another. And I love how Rafe Spall's character talks to Dave's like, where's Michelle at, and all that stuff. And there is a spitefulness between the Rafe Spall and Greg Kinnear's character. It's very small, but it's a nice little potent piece that kind of just adds a little fun and flair to the story. It gives Rafe Spall and Greg Kinnear something to do, because half the time they're not doing anything. They're just in there for cameo roles almost at this point. But yeah, but the big reveal, outside the fact that Dave's cheating on his wife with his ex-wife, is Michelle goes and she learns about Ezra, which is the John Leguizamo character. We learn that he's been disgraced, that he was fired from his job because of Dave, and we learn basically that Ezra is now a drunk for reasons. He's a drunk, and he is a pornographer recorder individual. He's hired by people to film revenge porn or porn in general that he gives to the customers. At first it seems like he is doing revenge porn to like blackmail people, but no, it's actually people are paying him lots and lots of money. It's probably how he gets to stay drunk every night. And Michelle and Ezra form an interesting relationship because they talk about their woes with Dave's character. Ezra has good inklings and proof that he's an arsonist, and it basically becomes kind of like a mission to take down Dave between the two characters, but we have to have like the middle episode before everything starts to kind of ramp up as we start to conclude the series, or at least the season, or whatever they're going to do. But I love them at the bar, and I love them talking about Dave and what he's capable of, and how he has a good facade, and he is very good at like manipulating people, how he's good at manipulating Michelle, how he was good at manipulating Ezra, how Ezra, of course, shot himself in the foot, but it was like with a much weightier gun. There's a lot there that is starting to show that Dave is just unhinged. Dave's stepson actually talks to Michelle and tells him about how he knows in the book that she is part of this like affair that's happening, Michelle and Dave, even though she knows it's happening. So she listens to the tape, and it's really unsettling with what he's talking about, because it really feels like it's in the first person point of view. Dave knows like how to place fires where they're supposed to be, how to like conceal evidence. That's what Ezra talks about. It's really interesting. And then it leads to the revelation, which is really disturbing, about why Ezra knows that Dave's an arsonist and how he can prove it. But Dave and Ezra go to this double wide that apparently they think, or Ezra thinks, has been abandoned by it's of course bought back by the bank. So Dave sets it on fire. And there are animals in there, because earlier we see Michelle actually asked why the dogs, is he planning on getting, Ezra planning on getting some more dogs. And we learned that those dogs are the ones that Dave set on fire and murdered. Therefore, Ezra knows, and is why he got let go, because Dave, of course, planted and actually out of spite got Ezra fired. So they murdered a bunch of dogs, which really set off Ezra and made him like become a drunk, made him get fired, made all these things start to fall apart in Ezra's world. And Ezra knows that this is going to happen to Michelle if she's not careful. But that video that she watches of the dogs burning to death, I mean, you don't see the dogs, but you hear the dogs in the double wide trailer, is really depressing, really disturbing. It's very uncomfortable to watch. Because those dogs are innocent. Those dogs were probably put there by Dave, but it's really unsettling. And it starts to kind of form that Ezra and, of course, Michelle are going to find a way to gather a case against Dave, and they're going to get back at Dave. And once again, this is very much in the Dexter territory, but it's going a little bit quicker, instead of taking 7 seasons to finally figure out that Dexter was the murderer and the killer in the series. But it's really unsettling. It's really interesting to watch. I think John Leguizamo is fantastic in this episode, and I'm hoping he's good throughout the rest of the series. But it's really unsettling stuff. It really is. It really shows that there are some like disturbing, evil people in this world. But we'll see what happens. So it leads to the final kind of twist where Dave is leaving. He has to go figure out what's going on with this fire that, of course, Freddy set off. And Joy, who's a character we see in the beginning of the episode, who is drinking, and she's just kind of like, why is she in this episode? There has to be a reason, because she's not really an important character. Well, Dave is driving, he's singing, he actually sees a fire, which he kind of ignores and keeps driving off, which he may have set himself. And when he arrives to the intersection, he gets brutally hit by a car, which causes him to, I don't know if he's dead or it's very catastrophic to him, where he hits the airbag and blood's coming down his nose, and it's pretty bad. But the woman in the other car is Joy, the one that was drinking. She is clearly not good. She is dead, it looks like, because the way blood is all over her. But it is like almost kind of like, oh, we have to have some kind of major twist to kind of finish out the season. Because once again, we have 4 more episodes, but you have to have that twisting moment to have a really chaotic thing happen. So therefore, Dave is seriously injured, and that's where the episode ends. So that's kind of where this episode kind of finishes off. Dave is cheating on his wife with his ex-wife. Michelle and Ezra are now on the charge to take down Dave. Freddy is now targeting people in the weirdest fashions. And that is Size Matters, episode 5 of Smoke. So it's a lot of stuff to talk about. It's very, it's a hard episode to talk about because there's a lot of stuff. It's very disturbing. But for my final score of this episode, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. I think it was fantastic. I know this is a very, campy series, very in the Rescue Me territory, but I like it. I'm having fun with it. So 9 out of 10 for my take on Smoke episode 5. So anyways, thank you so much for watching my spoiler discussion for Smoke Episode 5, which is, of course, Size Matters. Do appreciate it. Comments below, what do you think of this episode? What do you think overall of the twist? What do you think overall of like everything that happens? Let me know in the comments. But otherwise, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. As always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out, guys.